Good morning, beautiful beings. Thanks for tuning in. I haven't made any videos in a while, so I'm excited to follow through on some requests that people have made. And to be honest, I've been pretty deep in self-care that my videos, even though I love doing them, have moved down my priority list of late, but I'm hoping to change that. So this video, I would like to talk about letting go. This has been a request for someone, and I know a lot of people do find it hard to find a process for letting go, and also to keep that as part of a practice, whether that's regularly, weekly, daily, or monthly. But I think a lot of people have awareness that removing ourselves from the attachment of the past circumstances, people, relationships, whatever it is really important. But I'd like to go a little bit deeper into the mechanisms of why we attach in the first place, because possibly the awareness of that knowledge will help you to unravel it and will make you or allow you to be more present in a strategy of letting go. So, first of all, letting go is a process. And essentially, as human beings, our entire bodily system is designed to let things go. And really what happens, naturally, I think we're in sync with letting go. Because in our natural state, we're a lot like the nature around us. We absorb sunlight, nutrients, we let go of things, old parts of us die off, things regenerate, things recycle. But the interesting part for me is how we get in the way of our natural processes of letting go. And that's interesting to me because I've seen myself get in the way so many times. And when we look at the brain and the mind, we know that certain topics, events, certain places in our lives seem to grab the neural networks more than others. And this can be a whole myriad of experiences. It could be a certain emotion that's particularly challenging for us to integrate and understand. It could be a traumatic event, whether it's just the tiniest flicker or something really dark and painful. Or it can simply be negotiation that goes on in the mind when the heart is leading us one place and the mind simply can't understand where we're going. So understanding that we are allowing attachment to our past, which is preventing the natural experience of letting go. And we know it's natural because thinking about how to let go of something is actually preventing us from letting go of it. I hope that resonates. Because we are focusing on a problem and therefore attracting it more and keeping it more linked to our being. If we think essentially, right, if you want to think about something or the wisdom that comes in from the higher self perspective, the higher self or the heart would tell you there actually are no problems. Essentially, we are only connecting to what we find is a problem because our ego wants to, or is because we are not allowing something different. So we attach to problems because our ego has resistance towards that situation. We understand, I think most people deeply understand, that being attached to something prevents acceptance. And acceptance is how we move into healing. So acceptance for me is the same as forgiveness. Just pick the word that you resonate with more. So that awareness helps us to understand, okay, where am I getting in the way of acceptance? What part of my ego narrative has a problem with accepting this situation for everything that is? And the ego narrative is simply based on keeping you safe, your small story, the victim voice, the inner critic, whatever you want to label it as. It's that part of you that represents our greatest limitations, that prevents us from stepping into our higher self or into our heart space. Energetically, when we attach to our problems from our solar plexus, we make it about us and our identity and our ego. Why is this happening to me? Is the victim voice that resonates from a solar plexus that is overloaded, under-functioning, swelling up too big, or possibly is becoming damp and stagnant. When you hold that very same problem up to your heart, you'll find that your heart whispers, everything's fine. No matter what happens, everything's fine. And it is the place of pure compassion for acceptance and forgiveness. So letting go is really about moving into the heart space. It's hard to move into the heart space when we're too busy, when our mind is going around in circles, and when we're not still and allowing deep self-reflection. So, for a simple way to facilitate an ongoing practice of letting go, you could try sitting in silence every day and telling your heart your problems, or putting your problems up to the heart and listening to what your heart says, not what your mind says. And allowing your heart to show you wisdom and compassion, and to allow you to get to acceptance. Now, this process could be short and quick for some people, or could be very lengthy for others. Basically, the more problems you have, the longer you can sit. The more resistance towards acceptance you have of your problems, the longer you can sit. In my experience, letting go, sitting in silence, cultivating freedom from the past requires a different amount of time for each person. It can be at the pinnacle of self-care. What's important to note when you do sit in silence is try not to allow your small victim ego narrative to take you away from sitting in silence because of some reason that it's sent up to your mind. For example, in my experience, sitting in silence for those that are deeply attached to the past and fear and everything that's happened to them requires often an hour or two every morning. The more resistance you have to that, the more you need to sit. If you sit in silence and your mind will most probably throw you many different reasons and stories about how you can't do this, how you're doing it wrong, how meditation's meant to be about not thinking, but yet you're thinking because you can't do anything right. Sit there until that voice drains away. And you will have to prioritize time for this. Most people will have to get up earlier than what they're comfortable with, but this is the only way that works nearly every time for me and for other people that I know and for many clients, to flush out everything that you're having trouble letting go of. Because we distract ourselves throughout the day and we can fill in every part of the day with things that our ego is convincing us that is necessary, that we have to do, that we should be doing. I guarantee you that if you sit in silence for 1 or 2 hours every morning, those things won't exist when you get up. Your to-do list of 5, 10, 20 things will start to disappear. Most people after about 45 minutes will notice a shift in thinking away from all the problems into what feels a little bit more like ideas, like realizations, like possibly epiphanies, more creative thought. If you haven't seen that creative thought for some time, then it's another reason to sit. And just allow a deep flush of all that narrative to not direct and control you. So if you sit there and your mind convinces you that you can't do this right, you better get up and go have a coffee and do all the things for the rest of the day, then your victim voice has just won the argument once again, and it has more power over your heart, over letting go, of acceptance, of freedom, of truth and abundance and love. And please don't judge yourself or be hard on yourself in this process. It's all an experiment. All we're trying to do with this process is get you closer to a sustainable flow where you are reaching into your heart space often and focusing on solutions and freedom from your past. Now, I share this process because it is far more accessible than many years of therapy. It's free, it's easy, you can do it anywhere. If you have resistance towards it, then your ego already knows that it's at threat. Please don't label your ego as good or bad. It has simply been encouraged to be at the forefront because of our modern society. We are all giving a lot of power to our minds and letting that run the show most of the time. Let the heart take over. And I promise you, you will find a wise and compassionate voice that sees no problems, only love. So I hope you can sit in silence. I prefer it first thing in the morning because there's less resistance early in the morning as we're still waking up. We have a more ability to just allow things, let the thoughts roll. If they're uncomfortable thoughts, don't get up. Don't let them win. Just sit, surrender, allow. And that's my process for letting go. So I hope you can sit the next morning after you listen to this and give it a go. Okay, guys, much love. Take care of yourselves. Thanks for letting me be vulnerable. Bye.